Welcome to the Firefly Tutors TV podcast, where real teachers from all over the country discuss real solutions for parents and educators alike. Here's your host, Marissa Johnston.
Hello and welcome to The Buzz, brought to you by Firefly Tutors TV, where we talk to educators and parents all across the country on current topics affecting school children today. Welcome to the podcast, Kelly Wecker of Cleveland, Ohio, and I am your host, Marissa Johnston of Phoenix, Arizona. Our guest is an educator who has dedicated her career to ensuring equity and empowerment for all students. She enjoys interacting with students and their families to ensure the best learning experiences possible. She resides in Cleveland, Ohio, and is an avid reader and dedicated dog mom. Kelly, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Marissa. It's great to be back on the podcast.
Let's jump into the topic of motivation. What is your personal experience with motivating students?
As a classroom teacher and someone who has worked with students in a number of different settings, I have found in my experience that students lack motivation for a variety of reasons. It takes a lot of thought and energy and genuine care to figure out what's going on with a student, why they may appear to be not engaging with their schoolwork, they're not motivated to work on the tasks in front of them. Perhaps they don't feel supported in the classroom, the setting doesn't work out for them, or the way that the lessons are being put across just is not something that works well for them. So changing those lessons around to help them realize that they are capable of engaging with the learning. Perhaps those students are experiencing a great amount of stress, whether that be again from a school setting that they don't feel supported in, or something going on outside of school can certainly affect how motivated they feel to perform in the classroom. They may believe that the work is too difficult. They see something in front of them and they think, why should I even try this? There's no way I'm going to figure it out. On the other hand, they could find that the subject is too easy. When something is so simple in front of you, you feel like you could just do it in a second's notice, or you've already done something like this. It can be really easy for students to write that off and not put the motivation behind it that can lead them to success, or show educators and other people who care about them that they are trying and that they are intelligent and that they care about their schoolwork if it's something they feel like someone's asking them to repeat or is just not the right level for them. Another way that I see students lacking that motivation is they believe that the subject is meaningless. They're like, why do I need to do this? Why do I need to know y equals mx plus b? How is that going to help me later in life? They don't see the point. So we're going to talk later today, hopefully, about some ways to help students realize the importance behind their schoolwork, help them realize how the subjects they're working on are going to relate to their daily lives, both at the age that they're currently at as students and global citizens, as well as they grow up into later school years, as well as their adult lives, how the work we do K-12 and beyond is meaningful and matters to help them become successful people who are happy and striving later in life.
Definitely. That's something we really want for all of our children, all of our learners. It sounds like there can be so many ways for students to just lose motivation. What subjects do you see students having the hardest time with?
In my experience, as well as in some of the research that I've done, I've gathered that a lot of K to 8th graders lack the most motivation when it comes to math. Some may believe that they're not smart enough to learn these intense concepts and the difficult formulas that go around a lot of those higher levels of math. And we know that's not true. As you said, we want to make sure that our students are going to succeed. And if they have teachers and parents and tutors and other adults in their lives who believe in them and show them how important the work is, we can help them to move beyond that belief. The language of math and the application of those math concepts is different from how other, perhaps older generations have learned math in the past. Now in school, we teach young students to think like mathematicians. They're no longer asked to memorize math facts or take 1 minute to answer as many questions as they can really fast. We point out the wonder of math because math is all around us and it's going to help us succeed in almost every path that we may choose to take later in life. For all those parents out there listening who may be saying, this sounds familiar, that sounds like the kind of math I'm seeing in front of my student, or the kind of language that their teachers and curriculum are using around math nowadays, we can help to increase that motivation by increasing the awareness and the connection with the math that's happening all around us in everyday life. For those younger students who might want to help cook or bake, especially now around the holidays. For all those parents out there listening who may be saying, that sounds familiar, that sounds a lot like the work I'm seeing be put in front of my student, the work that I'm reading in our curriculum documents or hearing about from my student's teacher, we can increase that motivation by increasing the awareness and the connection with the math that happens around us in everyday life. We can turn cooking, shopping, driving, earning allowances, and other rewards into daily math lessons, pointing out the type of math that we as their parent or educator or just someone that spends time with them, what kind of math we did to figure out the way that these systems are going to work or how we're going to make sure dinner tastes delicious. We can also play board games that incorporate math. We can keep that learning really playful. Sometimes not even pointing out that it is math we're doing can be helpful to ensure that the students really do have fun while building those skills, and they might not even realize that that's what's happening. We want to keep in mind that if our students or our children are struggling or acting out, it may not be a behavioral issue sometimes. It may be that they just need some additional help to understand and relate their lives to the curriculum. They may be feeling a little bit of what I mentioned earlier. Why even try? What's the point? How is this going to help me? If we establish those connections between building a stronger math brain and living our lives as mathematicians, we can help them to better understand the importance of why we want to be motivated to grow our skill sets around that subject. Lastly, hiring a qualified tutor can take a lot of that pressure off of you. If some of those things I mentioned sounded a little overwhelming, how can I remember all of those? How can I build those meaningful connections between math and real life? A tutor is certainly a great tool to help with that. Your student will have an opportunity to interact with another adult who is an expert in that area, who is supporting them, showing interest in them, reiterating the importance of the learning that's sitting right in front of them to help them become a more motivated and successful learner overall.
And I know you mentioned that math does tend to be where most students seem to lose their motivation. And one thing that I know I noticed when I was teaching was that math motivation ended up being something that came over time, it seemed like. It wasn't always a reluctancy early on. It was as the skills and foundations are being built upon, that was where we started to see them losing motivation. Did you notice the same thing in your teaching?
Absolutely. I spent many of my years in the classroom in those elementary grades, moving from kindergarten all the way up to third grade. And I do remember seeing a bit of that shift where math was so fun and engaging in first and second. We were using cubes and little bears and making lines of trains and then taking them away and hiding them. Those early math skills can be very game-based, and it's a lot easier to build that excitement in a young student. As we get into some of the higher grades and a lot more of it ends up on pen and paper or a whiteboard, or again with some of those equations that we have to start using and putting to use in that math work, it's a little less fun for some students who might start to feel overwhelmed. Like we said, they might not feel like they're smart enough for math. Oh, I'm just not good at math. That can really take shape as the concepts get more difficult. So a student really can benefit from a teacher who's still going to make that learning fun, make that learning engaging. And that can be out of our control every now and again. So that's really what we do want to make sure our tutors are able to help with as well. With one-on-one students and a little bit more time to plan specifically for those 1 hour sessions during the week, tutors can help to make that math more engaging and more personalized to that student so that as we get off of some of those really fun building blocks that you mentioned, students are still engaged and motivated to do their math work and continue to build a strong base as the years progress.
Yes, definitely. And I know one other example that I saw getting into more of the intermediate grades was students needing to really have a solid grasp of division in order to apply that to even fractions, converting improper fractions to mixed numbers and that concept of multiplication and the inverse operations. It all just starts to build. And sometimes I think that really can be overwhelming for students or presenting a challenge that they just aren't quite used to and don't feel prepared to take on as a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, another thing I've noticed is loss of motivation in reading seems to happen hard and fast at the start of a child's schooling as opposed to math where it kind of develops more and more as they go on. And some of that I think can really impact reluctant readers to start with. Now, there are tons of tips for building fluency and comprehension that can be used across the different subject areas. I think the most important tip is to tailor the reading topics to the child's interest, similar to what you said about math. Make it apply to them, make it interesting, make it fun, make it relevant to their needs and how they're going to progress through life. You know, make the, I mean, apply all learning to them. Tailor every subject to their interests. Like make the math problem about their favorite hobby. Create a science lesson based around their favorite food. Conduct a research project about the inventor of their favorite toy. Because curiosity and intrigue can be great motivators in reading and all the other subjects. And then if, parents, family members, the adults in the child's life can demonstrate as much interest in hearing what the child discovered through reading to support their retelling and summarizing skills, and then asking clarifying, probing questions to encourage their hard work and deepen their comprehending skills. I think these are all ways that, a teacher, a mentor, a tutor could support these kids in regaining that motivation to continue learning and become lifelong learners.
Absolutely. Those are some really great strategies you mentioned, and they play really well into some of the other things that I wanted to talk about later in the podcast around how parents and mentors and teachers can really help to keep those students motivated, like you said, and engaging in a lot of interest about what they've learned and showing them that somebody else cares and what they learned matters, especially when it comes to, like you said, reading and all that information that you're taking in and then want to be so excited to share with somebody else when someone is listening. It can really help a student stay motivated to continue, like you said, to be a lifelong learner in both math and reading, as well as the other subjects too.
This has been part 1 of our discussion about motivating students. Please tune in next time for part 2. If you enjoyed our discussion today, please like Firefly Tutors on all your social media hubs like Facebook and Instagram. Find us on Pinterest, where we pin all of our favorite resources for parents and tutors. At Firefly Tutors, we believe every student deserves the opportunity to develop to their highest potential. See you next time.